Hello friends, this is a review of the ultra clear bar top epoxy that I used on my 4 foot by 6 foot dining room table. So when I called in to ask how much I needed, they advised me to get 4 gallons in total, 2 gallons of the resin and 2 gallons of the hardener. And it cost me a total of $260. And they included 2 buckets, mixing sticks, a drill mixer, and some gloves as well. So this did seem at first like a large amount for the table that I was doing. However, I did want the epoxy to run off the edges and self-level on the edges as well. And so they say that you lose 30% when you do have it go off the edges. So, but I'd also rather have extra than not enough, because that would be awful. So prior to actually doing the seal coat before the flood coat, you had to paint on 3 to 4 coats of polyurethane to help seal it up. Then after that, I did 1 gallon of the 4 gallons was to be painted on. So we painted that on. I did it with a friend, and then we waited 4 to 6 hours before doing the flood coat. And so each time you do a flood coat pour, you're only advised to mix 1 gallon in total. So they were pretty specific with exactly how much time you were to mix. So we did 3 minutes mixing with the drill stick or with the drill, and then we stopped that and did one of hand stirring with um, one of the sticks, making sure you get the sides and the bottom, and then mixing again with the drill for another 2 minutes. It was so 6 minutes in total. And so each time we did that, it was we poured about a gallon. So, or exactly a gallon. So it took us, a fair amount of time to do it, and we kept it above 75 degrees the entire time. The one issue that I had, and again, this is my first experience with epoxy, so it might be a user error, but they told me to get a blowtorch, just one cheap one at Lowe's or Home Depot, and spend about $20. So I found a $30 one, I think at Lowe's, and I brought it home, and we had just poured the 3rd gallon, fourth in total, but the 3rd gallon of the flood coat, and we were waiting, and then we were going to use the blowtorch to remove the air bubbles. Now, it didn't say in the directions to make sure you get a blowtorch that when held upside down it would still work. Well, of course, I bought one that was $30, and they advised to even get a cheaper one. But this blowtorch did not work when held upside down. Now, I was able to remove, thankfully, most of the bubbles that were on the edge because I could kind of hold it at least horizontal or parallel to the ground. But in the middle of my table, since it was so wide, it was really hard to get those air bubbles out in the middle of it without turning, because anytime I turned the blowtorch upside down, the blowtorch would go off. So I didn't really have any time to go to the store to get another one. So I quickly ran into the house and grabbed my wife's blow dryer, but that really didn't work as well because it has a tendency to push the curing epoxy out of the way, kind of thing. So that was a little bit of a letdown. So I do have some air bubbles there, but in here you can see I'm sanding off the remaining drips, which actually went quite well when I did it. So yeah, that was my one issue with the directions, that they didn't say make sure you get a blowtorch that can be held upside down to get those air bubbles in the center of your table. But other than that, the directions were lengthy, but they were precise, and I'd rather have too much directions than not enough directions and leave things open to chance. So overall, I would say I would purchase this epoxy again, but I wouldn't just jump out and go grab it without doing a little bit more research and finding and looking into other epoxies as well, uh, just to see and compare directions and to see if there's any epoxies similar to this that would be a little bit more forgiving, or not have as exact directions, or keeping the temperature above a certain amount. But overall, I really like the end result, aside from those air bubbles, but I'll get over it. One thing, and you'll see here, to make sure on your seal coat that you fill in gaps. So I have this gap right here that I made sure to seal, and I drilled and added a plywood piece, but then this one here I didn't see, and so there's a little bit of a texture to it. You might be able to see it there as well. So if I had to do it again, I would make sure to scour my table and making sure that I don't see any holes, and then when it's time, if I do have holes, during the seal coat, to really make sure that you fill in those gaps and do what you need to put underneath it so that those gaps will and those holes will fill in. So yeah, but overall I really do like the result. It's got a glassy finish to it. I know that if it does get any if there are any issues with it, I'd have to just sand it down again and get more epoxy to add on. That's the only way you can kind of fix it, or they say you can fix it. So that makes it a little bit extra stressful. It does take, they say it takes 3 months to fully cure, so I have to watch it and not put anything like ice water on it that will condense through, or any hot coffee on it as well. So having a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old in the house, that makes it a little bit stressful and keeping it off for these 3 months, but I think we can do it. So, and you'll see here in a second, this is how I've just attached it with those fasteners, but you'll see my before and after picture. Obviously before, it was this junky table that we had that we never finished and got a lot of use out of, and then here's my after. So if you like this video, go ahead and like it and subscribe. Really appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care.